Thanks for tuning into the Epoch News, folks. I'm Angela Anderson. In today's story, we go in-depth and uncover how legacy news outlets and politicians maintain their illusion of chaos. This story was written by Joshua Phillips. In just 2 years of Donald Trump's presidency, the terrorist group ISIS has nearly been eliminated. Black and Hispanic unemployment levels have reached all-time lows. The economy is growing at a rate deemed impossible under the Obama administration. The United States has become the world's largest crude oil producer, and manufacturing is returning to the country. Despite these successes, however, the Trump administration has been under constant attack by a collective of legacy news outlets, political actors and policy-focused front organisations that have created a constant picture of chaos in the United States and in the White House. The narratives used to discredit Trump have been debunked one after another. Criticisms of anti-Semitism have been turned around to expose anti-Semitism among leftist politicians and news outlets. The Trump-Russia scandal has transformed into the Spygate scandal of political espionage under Obama, and many other accusations have ended with similar results. For example, in the latest chapter of these chaos operations, House Democrats are voting to hold Attorney General William Barr in contempt of Congress for his refusal to not release the fully unredacted report from Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Barr was not required to release even the information he did, and cannot release the redacted parts because they relate to grand jury information on ongoing cases. But what's important to remember here is that none of this matters. This is not about Barr, nor the Mueller Report, nor foreign influences on the elections. This is about a political faction desperately trying to hold on to power. Its only hope is to cripple the Trump presidency as much as possible, while controlling public perceptions enough to flip the coming 2020 elections. Understand this and everything you're witnessing will make sense. So folks, for them, facts don't matter. The issues don't matter. What we're witnessing is just a chaos operation. The purpose is to manufacture an illusion of chaos. Now, there are several tactics at play, and by understanding their mechanisms, we can see what's really behind it. Now, a major tool in this is the above and below tactic. This works by manufacturing crisis and response, then subverting through the Hegelian dialectic process known as thesis, antithesis, synthesis, in order to control the direction of a process set in motion. The below part works through manufactured incidents and protests. The above then can react to these. For example, groups on the ground below create an incident, which media above then amplify the incident to create public demand, which is below, and political factions which are above then react to the public demand. This process creates a feedback loop in which reactions from politicians give fuel for more news stories, which further agitate public opinion, to which political groups can again respond. When the process reaches a boiling point with a strong enough public demand, the political factions orchestrating the illusion can use it to justify political intervention through policy. Now, we recently witnessed this tactic used to manufacture the Trump-Russia scandal. The Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee financed the creation of opposition research through the firm Fusion GPS. That opposition research took the form of the now debunked Steele dossier, which political operatives distributed to news outlets and spread throughout the US government. The Steele dossier was used by news outlets and political operatives to claim that Trump had colluded with Russia. This started waves of public panic, which these same political operatives used to then call for investigations of Trump and later to undermine his presidency. Now, this above and below tactic comes from communist movements. It was described in 1957 by Czech Communist Party theoretician Jan Kozak as a method for small groups to gain power by agitating society from two directions, one faction in government and another on the streets. He said one way to exert pressure from below was to fill the streets with rioters, strikers and protesters, thus creating the illusion of a widespread clamour for change from the grassroots. State authors David Horowitz and Richard Poe in their book The Shadow Party, which goes on to say radicals in the government would then exert pressure from above, enacting new laws on the pretext of appeasing the protesters in the street, even though the protesters, or at least their leaders, were themselves part of the plot. The majority of people would have no idea what was going on. Squeezed from above and below, most would sink into apathy and despair, believing they were hopelessly outnumbered by the radicals, even though they were not. Through this method, Horowitz and Poe wrote, a small radical group can impose its will on a majority of people who are politically moderate, even under a democratic parliamentary system. And that's all we have time for, folks, on today's special analysis report. We'll have more on this topic next week, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notifications button so you don't miss out. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Angela Anderson.